Are you curious about how your provincial residency influences your chances at getting admitted to a Canadian medical school? Or whether medical schools in Canada are becoming more or less competitive over time? My name is Danny Kalani. I'm a Canadian medical student and YouTuber. All of the data in this video is coming from the AFMC, or the Associations of Faculties of Medicine of Canada, which has compiled data on Canadian medical school admissions since 1977. I'll link their 2019 admissions statistics report in the description below. An increasingly discussed topic in pre-med circles is whether your residence in a particular province can increase or decrease your chances at admission to a medical school. One table by the AFMC compares the number of individuals aged 20 to 24 in a province to the number of seats available to those students. Using these numbers for each province, they are given a relative opportunity value. With that analysis, they found that the top 3 provinces with the greatest opportunity were Newfoundland and Labrador, followed by Quebec, and then Nova Scotia. While the bottom 3 were Prince Edward Island with the least opportunity, Ontario with the second least, and British Columbia with the third least. I didn't include the territories, but if I did, they would have had the least opportunity out of any of the provinces and territories. If you're enjoying this video, then make sure to subscribe to my channel for a Canadian perspective on medical school admissions and tips to help you along the way in the process. Now back to the statistics. You may have heard that Canadian medical schools are more competitive than American schools and require higher MCAT scores to be admitted. But is that really the case? In the 2018-2019 application cycle, Canadian students had an average MCAT score of 508, while Americans had an average of 506. While the average score of an accepted Canadian applicant is 510, that score in the US is 511. Even though these scores aren't all that different, the acceptance rate in the United States is 41%, while in Canada, it remains around 18%. This tells us that the difference between Canada and the United States ultimately comes down to differences in the number of seats per applicant. Where you can see, comparing Canada and the US, Canada has fewer seats per applicant. There may also be differences in GPA, however those are hard to judge given the differences between the Canadian and American systems for assessing GPA. But have Canadian medical schools become more selective and competitive to get into over time? Over decades, medical school admissions have most certainly become more competitive, with an undergraduate level education becoming accessible to more than just male aristocrats. A new and larger applicant pool has developed. But what about in the past 10 years? To judge this, we can look at the number of applicants relative to the number of seats offered per year. The trends in Canada show a general increase in the number of applicants per year over the long term. However, since the 2010-2011 cycle, there's been a fluctuation in the number of applicants at around 14,000 applicants per year. So over the past 10 years, the number of applicants per year has remained around the same. But what about the other half of the equation? What about the number of seats? Opening a medical school would provide the largest jump in the number of seats available. However, the newest medical school in Canada is currently the North Ontario School of Medicine, which was established in 2005. Prior to that was the University of Calgary Cummings School of Medicine, which was established in 1967. So new medical schools don't really play a role in influencing the past 10 years of trends in competitiveness. Since 2013, the number of seats offered by Canadian medical schools changed from approximately 2,777 to 2,823 in the 2018-2019 cycle. This change in the number of seats is not likely to be very significant. So based on my analysis, which keep in mind is coming from a medical student, not a statistician, there's not been a major change in the competitiveness of Canadian medical schools over the past 10 years. With that in mind, should you be packing your bags and heading for the Caribbean right now? Although the stakes are definitely higher in Canada than the US, there are ways to go about improving your application and getting a better chance at admission to Canadian schools that I talk about routinely on this channel. In addition, there are lots of struggles associated with repatriating back to Canada after getting an international medical degree. Let me know in the comments if I should do a video on the pros and cons of going abroad for medical school with a Canadian perspective in mind. Thanks for watching, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. That's all for now, and in the meantime, I hope you're all staying happy and healthy.